Hello students, welcome to the materials for week 6 for today with me Miss Mona Lisa Pasaribu, and for this week we are going to talk about online market. So let us check the material for this week. So the outline for the video for week 6 for today will be first having a quick review from last week's material, and then after that we will also have a quick review on the assignment, and then we talk about week 6 topic, which is the online market, and then we talk about a little bit about the reading strategies, which is about the bottom up and the top down approach, and then we will talk about the grammar, about giving advice, and then the last one will have a quick practice. Okay, so let us have a quick review. So before we go to the assignment writing, I just have a quick review on last week's material about the model identification. I do hope that the topic about the environment and model identification will give you or bring you a little bit of enlightenment on the understanding of how model identification looks like in a text form. Okay, and then after that, as I have mentioned to you in the video before this, we were talking about the assignment. So I hope that your assignment writing is doing all right. And again, if you have questions for your assignment writing, please do ask me, and then don't forget the assignment deadline. Okay, and also for the submission through eCourse. Yeah, so that's all for the review. Now we will talk about the topic for this week. Yeah, so over here you can see I'm taking a picture from the internet about online and offline shopping. I know right now, I reckon because of COVID, many people are actually opt for the online shopping, right? However, some people would actually prefer offline better than online. Therefore, in the next slide, I'm going to ask you this. Yes, so which one do you like? Do you like shopping online, or do you like shopping offline, or do you like direct or indirect shopping? If you do, like shopping online, why do you choose that? And if you choose direct shopping, why do you choose that? Okay, and then the next question is, do you have any favorite store, whether it's offline or online? Okay, so answer these questions by yourself. You can answer it in your notes, and then later in the practicum session, we're going to have a discussion over this. Okay, now, as I have mentioned to you in the outline of our video for today, that we'll do some reading and we'll have some reading strategies. Now, as a pre-reading task, I'm going to ask you to have a look at this title over here. So there is a title from a text, Shopping Online, Convenience and Bargains. So before we go to the text, I do have a question over here. Okay, so based on this text over here that I have underlined, what sort of text would you be expecting based on this title over here? What would you expect to have? So what is your prediction of the text that you will have based on this title? Okay, I want you to answer this question in your comments in the YouTube comment. Again, if you want to write down your comment, please write down your name, your student ID, and then your answer. You don't have to write down the whole sentences. Probably just some keywords will be fine. Okay, so that will be the pre-reading task that I'm asking you to do in the online session. So now we'll be discussing about the shopping online, convenience and bargains. I want you to have a look by yourself. And remember, when it's reading time, I would love to ask you to read it out loud, and then after that record your own voice, and then also check the audio that the vocabulary that you think is difficult for you, and then find the vocabulary in the dictionary or online resources. Okay, and then once you have finished with the reading, I also want you to check your understanding by answering this question, whether this is actually true or false. Remember, we'll keep this for now, and we will answer these questions later on in the practicum session. I will check whether you actually do this reading or not. So now we will move on to the reading strategies. As I have mentioned in the outline, that there are two reading strategies that we are going to discuss. The first one is the top-down, and then the second one is the bottom-up. So what are these two strategies? Let us check these strategies one by one. So let us see the top-down approach first. So what is a top-down approach? A top-down approach happens when someone uses the background of information to predict the meaning of language they are going to listen or to read. Okay, and then after that, teachers sometimes may ask students to predict a text by reading the titles or the pictures. So the task that I was asking you to do in the pre-reading is included as a top-down approach, because I was asking you to predict what kind of text that you will actually hope to have later. Okay, based on the title that I have given you. Okay, so that is the example of top-down approach. Now, what about the bottom-up approach? Now, the bottom-up approach, looking at individual meanings and grammatical meanings or grammatical characters of the most basic units of the text. For example, sounds for a listening or words for a reading, and then moves from this to trying to understand the whole text. So looking at the smallest unit from the text, and then after that find the meaning in the whole text later. Okay, so what activities that the teacher usually asks the students to do is to read a text out loud. So the one that I was asking you to do in the second task, I'm asking you to read it out loud, record yourself, and find the meaning. Then that is actually an exercise for a bottom-up approach. So I guess for both of these approaches, there's nothing, I guess, new about the activity. You may be new when you're encountering the terminology of bottom up and top down, but the approach itself, the activity itself, is something that you have been familiar with. Okay, so why are we discussing about this? Is this. So as learners of a foreign language, you are encouraged to use both bottom-up and top-down strategies. Why do you think so? Because it will help you a lot in understanding a text, especially when it is long. Okay, for example, in a reading comprehension, so you use your knowledge of the genre to predict. So based on the text, based on the title, you predict, okay, so this is something that I'm going to expect to have later in the text. And then after that, you will also use your understanding to guess the meaning of the text by word or by the grammar. Okay, so you are incorporating both of the approaches of top-down and bottom-up approach in reading in order to understand a text. So I would say there is no good or bad approach for reading, but you can actually incorporate both of this to help you in understanding a text. Okay, so help yourself later to practice in this top-down and bottom-up approach in reading. Okay, so that's for the reading approaches. Now we will move on to the grammar discussion. So as I have mentioned to you, in the grammar discussion, we will be discussing about giving advice. Okay, I know last week we were discussing about the use of modal verbs, and there were 7 over there. Ability, permission, obligation, if I'm not mistaken, when we talk about must, have to, and should. But there are actually more function of the these models, must, have to, and should, not only for the obligation but also for giving advices. And the same thing like the function in the previous material. There's also levels for giving advices. Okay, so must and then have to are strong advice, and then should is the least strong advice, or in the obligation we call it a recommendation. Okay, and now how are we using the modal verbs? It is like this: subject plus modal verbs plus the verbs plus the object. I reckon you understand it very easily, so I'm going to be very quick in the grammar discussion. So for example, over here, it's raining outside. You must bring your umbrella. So you strongly suggest to bring umbrella. Okay? Or you have to bring your umbrella if you want to go to places with frequent rains. So you strongly suggest, but you kind of give consideration to it. Okay? So if you want to go to places with frequent rains, you have to bring your umbrella. Okay, and the last one, it is going to rain soon, you should take your umbrella. So you kind of give them advices in form of recommendation. But however, you can also say must over here if you think that you want to give a strong recommendation. Okay, so that's the difference between must, have to, and should in terms of the use in a sentence. So let us have a quick practice over here. For example, you blank 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 pay your bill before leaving the restaurant. Now if you want to leave a restaurant after you eat, of course, yeah, what do you need to do with your bill? Do you have to, do you must, or do you should pay your bill? Okay, so you answer over here and then answer question number 2 and question number 3. Okay, so that's the practice. Okay, now for the second practice, what I want you to do is to practice the reading strategy that we have just discussed for this video. The first one is the bottom-up approach. Okay, so I'm giving you here a text about online shopping scams. Okay, so what I want you to do, I want you to read it out loud, pay attention to all the grammars and the words that you don't understand, make sense of it when you do have the meanings, and then after that get the whole meaning from the whole text. And then once you're done with that, write down some advice based on the text. Okay, so that's the job for the practice 2. Now for the last practice, what I want you to do, it's quite similar to the practice 3. You are going to execute the approach of top-down for the reading. Now what I want you to do is to predict what text would come based on this title. So there's a title. online versus offline shopping, pros and cons. And then what I want you to do based on this title, I want you to write down 5 predicted advice based on the title. And for this one, where do I want you to write down is I want you to write it down in the discussion forum in our e-course for week 6. Okay, so what I want you to do is to post your answer in the discussion forum. So I am not going to give you any question in the discussion forum for week 6, but if you watch my video, then you must know what to do for week 6 materials for the discussion forum. Okay, so yeah, so that is the practice 3, and I'm looking forward for your post in the discussion forum in e-course later. Okay, so that would be the whole practices for this week. Do not forget to use the grammar points that we just discussed for this week, the using must, have to or has to, and should. Okay, and depending on the context, you can also can decide which one is necessary to be used for one particular context. Okay, so that is for practice 3. Okay, so that last practice 3 would bring us to the end of the materials for week 6. Now very quickly, I'm putting here some unit checklists, so have a look at your progress. If you think that you can comprehend topics related to online market, then give a checklist over here. If you can understand some reading strategies, the bottom up, then top down, and use them for understanding text, checklists. And if you can use the model for advice according to the context, then give a checklist over here. Okay, and for the next video, we'll be discussing about the product design, and I'm going to talk a little bit on the review because after that we will have week 8, which means it's a mid-semester week. Okay, so that should end the video for this week. Here is the reference. Thank you very much for watching this video. I'll see you in the practicum session. Goodbye everyone.